Day one of the Senior Bowl is in the books from Mobile, Alabama. Plenty to discuss. The first day of practice behind us in Mobile, Alabama for the Senior Bowl. Nick Caserio and company in attendance to look at the future of the Houston Texans. Welcome to the channel. I'm Cody Stoots. Let's talk some Texans, and let's talk about some potential Texans out here at the Senior Bowl. If you're unaware of exactly what the Senior Bowl is, it's an all-star game for college players, and it invites typically the best seniors and some juniors to the event. And they have 3 days of practices split into two teams, a national team and an American team. So 2 practices each day, one from each team for 3 straight days. Then they play a game at the end of the week. It is the unofficial official kickoff to a draft season. It's my 3rd Senior Bowl to cover out here in Alabama, and it's a fantastic event. You get to see a lot of one-on-one action between the players. You get to see some teams, some 11-on-11. You get to see some 7-on-7 with the wide receivers and the safeties and the cornerbacks and linebackers and tight ends. And then really what I'm here for, and what I feel like the Texans are definitely here for, is some one-on-ones and some trench warfare between those defensive linemen and the offensive linemen. So I'll get the Senior Bowl 7 observations for you, but I want to kind of set the scene and kind of lay out exactly what the Senior Bowl looked like today from a Texans perspective. In attendance for the Texans were numerous representatives from the organization. Plenty of people there, including general manager Nick Caserio, offensive line coach Cole Popovich, special teams coordinator Frank Ross, and a few other people from the Texans front office, and I'm sure scouting department and things like that. I saw no less than, I think, 7 different people with Texans gear, in addition to or including the appearances by Nick Caserio and Cole Popovich and Frank Ross at this one. And I always like to watch Caserio because he moves around a lot. In the Senior Bowl. And so he started his Senior Bowl day of practices, and they did practices in the afternoon and evening. Typically it's been morning practices in the early afternoon, but they went afternoon and evening this year. And he started the first practice of the day over in the corner of the end zone, had the visor on, had his vest on, and he's sitting there watching. And he's watching those offensive linemen drill and rep. And then when the defensive linemen come over for one-on-ones, he was watching them. So he kind of had his eyes on them, and watching about 25 feet away from him from a different angle was offensive line coach Cole Popovich. And he was bundled up, man. It wasn't even that cold during the day, but he had the hoodie up. He had it tight. You could see the big Cole Popovich beard, protruding out from it. And he's watching those offensive linemen, and at different times those two met, and I'm sure talked about what they saw from the big nasties up there. And again, this is a event that the Texans have drafted a lot of players from, and the Senior Bowl's been really good to the Texans. Nico Collins was a Senior Bowl player that Nick Caserio drafted. Tank Dell, Jarrett Patterson, Dylan Horton, and Jalen Petrie, and then of course 5 straight draft picks last year from the Senior Bowl. Jaden Higgins, Ariante Ursery, Jalen Knoll, Jalen Smith, and Woody Marks. So they are no strangers to the Senior Bowl, and it's been a pretty important element of the offseason. Caserio a couple years ago called it the most important final football thing that a lot of these guys do, because after this, it's a lot of get ready for the combine, and it's more athletic testing, but it's actual football. You're out there in pads, you're running around, you're thumping. Maybe you're going to the ground a few more times than the coaches at the Senior Bowl want you to go to the ground. But Caserio's moving around, and he went from the offensive line, and he kind of watched the linebackers and the running backs in some one-on-one drills, and then he kind of moseyed on over and picked up a little bit more from the 11-on-11s. I saw him and Cole Popovich again when there was 11-on-11 team drills. They were watching some of the team drills together, and then during the switchover, I was kind of taking a little inventory, just seeing, okay, what's Caserio doing here in the switchover? Well, the specialists for the second team come out early, and the Ray Guy Award winner, who is typically the best punter in the college football each of these years, and Brett Thorson is here at the Senior Bowl, and he was the Ray Guy Award winner this year. And 2 years ago at the Senior Bowl, Caserio spent like 30 minutes watching Torrey Taylor, who is that year's Ray Guy Award winner, punt. And so I was wondering, okay, is he going to take some time and observe Brett Thorson, who's a Ray Guy Award winner, and Tommy Townsend is a free agent here for the Houston Texans. And sure enough, between the two practices as the specialist for the second team, the American team came out, Brett Thorson's there, and there's Caserio with Frank Ross at the back end of the end zone watching Thorson just put that thing wherever he wanted it, just dropping the punts wherever he wanted it, by out 5 yards out, 10 yards out, dropping it with these knuckle balls. Like it was a fun watch. And then again, watch a Caserio where he kind of matriculates and moves around and a little bit more on the offensive line, and some really good time spent watching the linebackers and the running backs in the second group as well. And then I kind of lost track of him and Popovich and just the mass of people, and the cold temperature started to kind of, get at me. And then really I just kind of watched that American team defense just dominate the American team offense. The national team was much more 50-50, but the American team defense, with some just incredible defensive line performances, they really took over there in the second practice of the day. The first practice was a bit more back and forth and 50-50. So happy to answer as many of these questions as I can. We'll get to your comments, your questions, your joys and concerns here in just a minute. I'm going to do the Senior Bowl 7. So my 7 big observations from this one. Some of it will be player specific, some of it will be position specific, and then we'll go through what's kind of the focus for the next couple of days. 2 more days of practice, so 4 more practices here in Mobile, Alabama. Let's get to some of your comments and questions, and the super chats, of course, jump to the front of the line. Gustavo asks, Cody, who's getting ready to learn Texans? Give us Lee Hunter, the defensive tackle from Texas Tech. He looked like a beast from the highlights. Yeah, Lee Hunter was absolute monster today. He was a terror for the offensive lineman of the national team trying to slow him down. And he was very good. He was finished super strong for Texas Tech in the college football season and even in the playoff for the Red Raiders. And he picked up where he left off here in Mobile. He was really good, and he was one of the guys that sort of led the charge for the defensive lineman to have a huge day. So that's definitely one of those to stand out. And I think Hunter's probably playing himself into a situation where the Texans may not get a crack at him based on the Senior Bowl and how he finished things at the end of the season. He may find himself out of range for the Texans. Most people believed he was going to be a second-round guy, and now it feels like he's going to be probably a first-round guy. But, Gustavo, I'm glad you mentioned that. So let's start with the 7 Senior Bowl observations. This is a very, very deep defensive line group out here. There were some really, really impressive defensive line performances from guys that were dominant to guys that flashed, and it felt like there were just so many different defensive linemen that had a really good performance that I'll have to detail a lot of it at the Houston football write-up, but Zion Young from Missouri, he was damn near unblockable in the second practice. It felt like he was giving everybody work on that one. We mentioned Lee Hunter from Texas Tech already. TJ Parker at Clemson is an edge rusher who had fallen out of favor and maybe didn't have the season a lot of people thought. He had a 300-something pound offensive lineman up in the air with one arm at one point. Like, he knocked the guy up into the air as he pass rushed past him. And then there was just sort of some flashy moments from so many other defensive linemen. I believe I'm saying his name right. Nadame Tucker from Western Michigan. He was giving defense or offensive tackles fits in this one. Iowa's Max Llewellyn had some really nice moments. So there were numerous defensive linemen, and that's something to kind of pay attention to and start to fine tune here over the next couple of days. And you start thinking about the Texans' situation on the defensive line. Yeah, you've got Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson for the next season, but Danielle Hunter is going to be too expensive to keep around for much longer. So a succession plan at defensive end for after Danielle Hunter certainly would be nice. And then defensive tackle, you've only got a handful of defensive tackles under contract. And I know they're going to add some veterans to that group, and D'Amico Ryans trusts the veterans. And you think about Sheldon Rankins and how they had Tim Settle last year and for part of this year. And and the veterans they added at the back end of the season in Naquan Jones and Lecky Fotu that were able to help them out. It'd be nice to have some long-term options there at defensive tackle. They only have a handful of guys signed through this upcoming year. Tommy Togiai, Mario Edwards Jr., Keontae Hamilton, but he didn't even play last year for the Texans because he got hurt in training camp. So defensive line is definitely something I'm paying attention to, with 6 selections in the top 130 or so for the Texans. You could definitely sneak a defensive lineman in there. Maybe you're going to lean more towards a project player because you may not need that guy right away, but the Texans will rotate defensive linemen, and if they can find somebody that can help them right away, I'm certainly intrigued by watching these defensive linemen. And they dominated in the American practice. The second practice of the day, they dominated in that practice, and the offense could get nothing going. The rushing attack could get nothing going. There were a couple of pops, a couple moments, and maybe a big pass over the middle here or there, but it just really ruined the offense for the American team because the defensive line was in there. And I've only named a handful of the names, but there were so many defensive linemen that had really nice performances in this one. And so definitely on the watch list here for the next couple of days to just see if there's some more defensive linemen, some guys that popped after they didn't pop on the first day. And those O-linemen, and we'll talk about it in a second, those O-linemen, they're going to want a little bit of revenge too. While we're talking about that front seven, some of the linebackers, Senior Bowl observations, Senior Bowl 7 observations, number 2, the linebackers, lots of linebackers. And that first group had my guy Jacob Rodriguez from Texas Tech, but it also had Kyle Lewis from Pittsburgh. Caleb Elarms Orr from TCU was really good. They were flying all over the place, darting in there, making it tough on the running backs in the teams drills, and some really good coverage stuff. Rodriguez had an awesome day in one-on-one coverage drills. He was really good. He almost had an interception at one point, and one of the coaches was jumping up and down saying, "Oh, you got to get that. You got to get that." But Rodriguez just read it perfectly. He had a couple of really nice teams reps where he just read everything the exact right way. Lewis from Pittsburgh had a really slow start, and those Pittsburgh guys stand out because they got those yellow helmets. And I wrote his name down because a couple of running backs got him early on, and then he sort of flipped the switch and was getting very physical with those guys, and it really flipped for him a little bit. Had an interception at one point, just dove in front of the ball and picked it off in one-on-one reps, and felt like he had a really nice bounce back after a little bit of a slower start to the day. His number, I wrote it down a bunch. I wrote down 31. Like, the running backs got him, and then he sort of turned the corner, and it was much better. Elarms Orr from TCU had a nice day. And then in the second practice, Arkansas's Xavier's, I believe it's Sorey. I got to double check a lot of these pronunciations, but Xavier Sorey is a guy that had some nice moments in the second practice, but lots of linebackers. And again, you think about linebacker for the Texans, it doesn't finish high on the priority list, but Azeez Al-Shire's in the final year of his contract. Henry To'oTo'o's in the final year of his contract. Jake Hansen's been primarily a backup player for his career. EJ Speed is a free agent. If you could snag one of those linebackers with one of those top 120 or so picks that you have, then you have maybe a guy that isn't needed a ton in 2026, but can be a player that you're going to count on in 2027. I know linebacker's not the most exciting thing to draft when the draft rolls around, but there were some really nice linebackers and some really good linebacker play. And the running backs are going to want a little bit of revenge on those guys in the next couple of days. So that's something to definitely pay attention to. 5 more observations, your comments, questions, joys, and concerns, and that's all coming your way right after I tell you about my friends at Sleeper. Sleeper, the best way to play daily fantasy. I know football season's almost over, but they've got basketball, they've got golf, they've got hockey, they'll have baseball when it rolls around, which is right around the corner. And of course, there's still one big football game. You put a couple of statistical predictions together, and if you get them all correct, you multiply your entry 5 times, 10 times, even more with my friends at Sleeper. A free $20, no deposit required entry is headed your way thanks to Sleeper, and a deposit match up to $100 is headed your way thanks to Sleeper. Use my code Stoots, STOOTS. STOOTS is the code to use when you get signed up. There's a link in the description down below. You just click it. It should autofill. If not, use the code Stoots to get those fantastic Sleeper benefits. Terms and conditions do apply. When you get signed up, use my code Stoots, STOOTS, with my friends at Sleeper. Get to some of your comments and your questions, and then we will get back to the observations here from the Senior Bowl. Mike's here. Appreciate you. Chapaho. Appreciate you. Primetime Vari. Yeah, TJ Parker was awesome. We'll talk about the tight ends here in just a few moments. Gunnar K says, let's go Stoots live. Way better than a Houston Texans divisional playoff game. Come on now. Come on now. Chapaho wants an edge. Primetime Vari. D-line and O-line were getting after it today. Yeah, it was busy in the trenches. They got off-season live. There'll be plenty of these. You never know when it's going to pop up. Turn those notifications on. Get to the page. Turn the little bell on. Make sure you get those notification. Caserio better not be down there. No punters. Well, he was. He was watching them. Middle round linebacker and DT from Mike. Certainly. He also wants a good DT pickup in free agency. John Franklin Myers. He's a Texans Hall of Famer on Madden. That's as good as a trading card tarot in my book. That's funny. Let's see here. Italo Mesa da Costa. Oh, I hope I didn't mess that name up too bad. Howdy, Cody. Do we have a QB for 2026? Stoic fumbling incoming XOXO. CJ Stroud's going to be the QB in 2026. Let me tell you, there damn sure wasn't a QB at the Senior Bowl that you get excited about. That was not a good quarterback performance from hardly anybody today. That was not good. Cody's heart racing while observing Caserio and Popovich because it's fight or flight if Popovich spots him. Come on now. Come on. Is Surratt from Indiana there? He is not. I know we drafted 2 and have Hutch and Tank, but still not 100% sold. I think he solidified the wide receiver. Surratt was not here. There were some nice wide receiver performances. I didn't pay as much attention to them just because wide receiver's not near the top of the list, but a couple of moments where guys had some nice plays, and the people will love hearing this. Tyron Montgomery, number 7 at the Senior Bowl for the national team, had a great catch. He's got a little bit of special teams to him, and he played at John Carroll University. So Tyron Montgomery, wide receiver room's pretty loaded, but wouldn't rule out you being a Houston Texan in the near future. Hopefully Daniil takes a pay cut to stay with the team. Maybe not. Hey, he might. Let's see here. We'll get to Rutledge here in just a minute. That's going to be one of the Senior Bowl 7, so that's a little bit of a tease for you. Mike wants the elite linebacker that Christian Harris was supposed to be. Calculon wants a Kubiak. Find a Kubiak. Any of them, just any Kubiak, Bali, Cody, any great quarterbacks? Nothing at the Senior Bowl you'd want. Nothing at the Senior Bowl. You doing another mock draft post-Senior Bowl? Absolutely. I know our season is over, but how much fun are you having, brother? I love this stuff, man. You guys are so supportive here on the channel and on SNL and the locker room. You allow us to go do fun stuff like this, and I love talking about the draft. It's my second favorite thing in football besides covering a season, and it's my favorite off-season thing. I love the draft. It's a melding of 2 of my favorite things, which is college football and pro football, and the Senior Bowl is the kickoff to draft season. And you just get to watch guys go out there and basically give numerous answers to job interviews without it being, question and answer. It's how good do you look out there in your uniform running around and doing football things. It's fantastic. I love it. I don't want to be here. I'd rather be getting ready to go to San Francisco, but there's worse ways to go about things. Is the Toledo safety there? Here he might rise to a first-round pick. He did not. He was originally announced to be here, and then he pulled out of the Senior Bowl. So Emmanuel McNeil Warren is his name. So initially was going to be at the Senior Bowl, and then he backed out. The Senior Bowl's had some really good Toledo players the past couple of years. Quinyon Mitchell 2 years ago, which was my favorite player at the Senior Bowl and one of my favorite players in the draft 2 years ago, All-Pro this year. Then Darius Alexander last year. So I felt like he's going to follow in his, former Rockets footsteps, but he ultimately didn't. He ultimately didn't do that. So there was some surprise there that he pulled out. There was a couple of safeties. AJ Halsey was another guy that pulled out of that was supposed to be here, but I didn't have a lot of notes on the safeties today, but that's something I'm definitely watching for in the next couple of days. Let's get to some more of these Senior Bowl observations. So we talked about the defensive line group, really deep, really impressive defensive line group. Lee Hunter was the big standout for me, the Texas Tech guy, defensive tackle, massive man, but not just a space eater, okay? Not just one of those just a great big fat human beings you put in the middle and eats up space. No, he was beating guys. There was a double team. He worked. The national team did a really fun drill with the offensive and defensive lines. They had the offensive lineman double team the defensive lineman, and that was it. It was 2-on-1, just to see how the defensive lineman handled it. And Lee Hunter he hand fought with the first guy and olayed him past, and then olayed the second guy past and got to the quarterback. It was really impressive. He did that twice, and then he was nasty in the 11-on-11s as well. Lots of linebackers. Some really good linebacker play led by Texas Tech's Jacob Rodriguez, as well as Pittsburgh's Kyle Lewis. Both those guys had some really good moments, and even in coverage as well. Because when you think about linebacker and how much the Texans put those two linebackers on the field, you've got to have a little bit of a coverage element to you. And both those guys did, so I really enjoyed watching them. And slow start for the offensive linemen. I felt like there were some decent moments from offensive linemen, and the way I do it in my notes is I just write down the player's number, and it's greater than or less than the defensive lineman. And then when I go back after and I'm doing the writing, I'll go back and I'll grab the player's name. And every now and then it's maybe just beat bad or nasty or things like that. And while in the one-on-ones, especially in the first practice, I watched a lot of offensive linemen, and there was a win here and a win here, but then the defensive linemen started really getting some momentum. But I felt like the one-on-ones were kind of a stalemate. And then it got to the 11-on-11s, and the second set of one-on-ones, the defensive linemen started just bowling them over. And then in the second group, in the American team, the O-linemen just very few standout moments from the offensive linemen. So slow start for the offensive linemen. And you give those guys a little bit of grace because the one-on-one drills are set up for them to fail. Those one-on-one drills are set up for it to be difficult on the offensive linemen. It's much easier for the defensive linemen, but they had a pretty slow start. And that's something that I would think they're going to bounce back from. And when you do stand out as an offensive lineman in a positive light amongst some of your fellow offensive linemen having some struggles, you got to take note. And I took note of Keelan Rutledge, a.k.a. Big Red. And let me show you what Big Red looks like here. This is Rutledge. He went to Georgia Tech. Before that, he was at Middle Tennessee. And he is a big, nasty dude. He was shoving guys to the echo of the whistle, to the echo of the, hey, reps over. He played guard at Georgia Tech, but he was playing guard and center today at the Senior Bowl. And asked him after the practice, I said, hey, I noticed you're snapping. He goes, I had to come here and prove that. That's what I wanted to prove and show everybody that I could do that. He's a big fella. Taller than some of the other centers that are here, and a pretty beefy guy, and Big Red because of the red hair, and he's a big guy. Multi-sport athlete in high school, played offensive line, defensive line, special teams, and football. Played basketball, scored 1,000 points in his high school basketball career, was a state champion shot putter, I believe. And because he did so much stuff and wasn't a specialist, his recruiting just wasn't very good. He ended up in Middle Tennessee. They got him at Georgia Tech, and he was a monster for 2 years for the Yellow Jackets, and he was one of the best offensive linemen in practice today, national or the American team. And I got appropriately accused of, hey, Cody, Keelan Rutledge sure sounds like Tate Ratledge. Are you sure you're not just, liking him because of that? And hey, so what if I am? The guy went out there and he was mauling people on the interior. He's playing center. And I do feel like a player like him with the ability to maybe learn center and become an option at center, but also maybe help you right away at the guard spot, that's an attractive thing. So, yeah, Keelan Rutledge was one of the big standouts on the offensive line. So that's something that I'll be paying attention to the next couple of days, because typically after you have a good performance or you have some good moments on the offensive line, the D linemen start seeking you out. But if you're really good, the D linemen start ducking you. Okay, we've seen that happen. We saw people duck Gray Zabel at the Senior Bowl last year. Guys were pushing other guys to go when it was time to go against Zabel. If you're really good, guys will start ducking you. I'll be interested to see if people start ducking Big Red here in the next couple of practices. Senior Bowl 7 observations number 5, the Iowa duo. Had high expectations for this Iowa duo, and there's 2 Iowa offensive linemen here. One of them is named Bo Stevens. Stevens was a Big Ten All-American, or All Big Ten and All-American this year for the Hawkeyes, and he had a really rough day of practice. I had higher expectations for Stevens than what he showcased. Lee Hunter got him a couple of times. Some of the speed guys got him and got around him in the guard setup, and he just got kind of tossed around. So again, all Big Ten selection, first team All Big Ten, first team All-American, and he had a really rough day. And so that's a guy that is on the list to pay a little bit more attention to in these next couple of practices, because he was on my guys to watch on offense. He had a great resume coming in, and the first day of practice stunk. So how do you bounce back from the first day of practice? And his teammate, Jennings Dunker, is another guy I paid a lot of attention to. And Dunker is a weird-looking cat, and he had short shorts on today. It was cool. It was cool for the first practice. It was cold for the second practice. They had short shorts on. He does not look like he's 315 pounds. He looks much heavier and bigger than the 315 pounds listed. And there were a lot of people, as I read up on Dunker ahead of the Senior Bowl, that expected him to just automatically bump inside and play guard at the NFL level. Dunker absolutely looks like he has the size to play tackle. He did not look out of place at right tackle. He repped at both tackle and guard throughout the course of Senior Bowl practice, and he had some really nice moments. He blocked Lee Hunter one-on-one in a really good rep against Lee Hunter, the Texas Tech defensive tackle that dominated. And then the very next play, he got out ahead of himself, and his guy darted past him and tackled the running back for a loss. So it was an up and down day from Dunker, but he had a better day than Stevens did, his teammates. So the Iowa duo was something I was paying attention to, just kind of seeing what those 2 guys would bring to the table. And disappointing from Stevens. He's got to bounce back, and then Dunker needs to be a little bit more consistent, I guess I would say. Senior Bowl observation number 6. Man, not a lot from the tight ends. Not a lot from the tight ends yet. Tanner Koziel, the UH product, he was there, had a really nice moment up the seam where they put the ball right on him and he just couldn't come up with it. Sam Roush, who's on the American team in the second practice, big guy, 260, 6'5", sort of that prototype with a little bit of hope that he's going to be a pass catcher, but a good blocker right away from Stanford. Not much from him. He looked a little like kind of stuck in the mud as he was running some of his routes. Some of these other tight ends, Nate Borkersher, I believe is how I say his name, Texas A&M, big individual, okay, big guy, didn't show a lot from a pass catching standpoint. Justin Jolie didn't show a lot from a pass catching standpoint, didn't really jump off the page for me on this one. It just felt like the tight ends were disappointing. And I know this was supposed to be a couple of different names at tight ends and some of these other names. Like Eli Stowers from Vanderbilt was initially in the game, and then he pulled out. He wasn't there. But John Michael Gillenborg from Wyoming just looked like he was moving slow out there as a pass catcher. So not a lot to like from the tight ends yet. They need to have a bounce back day. Joshua Cuevas from Alabama, who's they threw him the ball a bunch earlier in his career and then hadn't thrown him as much late in his career. Got loose, got open, dropped the football down the sideline. So the tight ends, you need more out of the tight ends here. It was not a good showing from the tight ends in this one. And they'll have some opportunities. The quarterback play didn't help. The quarterback play was a little rough, but the tight ends have got to do a little bit more here at the Senior Bowl. And I'm excited about this tight end class, and the Texans need a little bit more tight end help. They need a tight end makeover, so to speak. So let's take a look at some of these comments, questions, joys, and concerns, and we'll wrap up with my first crush of the bowl season, of the draft season. So J-Rod would be awesome in a Texans uniform, says Thor, with a Texas Tech mascot as his picture. Yeah, I would love Jacob Rodriguez on the Texans, especially because you don't immediately need him. He's a special teams demon for a year, and then you could maybe hand him a little bit more at the linebacker spot. Rodriguez would be really fun for the Houston Texans. Let's see. Series film. Cody, you need to be sponsored by the Texans. Well, if I took their money, how would I be honest? Who cares about radio, podcast, the new thing? You and Landry, the face of the Texans in my book. We appreciate the kind words. And Landry works really hard, harder than me. And I like to just talk about football. So, and we have a lot of fun, and you guys watch the shows and interact and have some nice things to say and are very supportive and support the sponsors. And we appreciate that. Speaking of the sponsors, I'm going to make sure after the video, put it in there, but TriStar giving you an opportunity to meet Charlie Sheen. It's going to be a random drawing. I'll put the link in the description after the video. I can't do it while I'm live, but I'll put the link in the description after the video. And I bet I can do it in the chat right now. So the Charlie Sheen TriStar meet and greet is available for you to sign up, and we'll randomly hand that out. You just go in there, sign up if you can go, and you get to meet Charlie Sheen, the actor. Hang out with him for a minute and take a picture, get an autograph, and get you 2 tickets to the show, and we'll get you that if you're the random winner. Brandon says Crownover had some good reps. That is the Texas A&M tackle, who is a monster of a man. He is enormous. The long arms certainly help him out. Demetrius Crownover, and had some nice moments. Some speed guys got him, and some guys got physical with him and they used the size against him, but Crownover had some nice moments. Prime time, with the way the Texans rotate D-line, a lot of guys they could target in this loaded D-line class, for sure. And think about it too, even if you have a guy that's, he's the 5th D-lineman this year and needs a little bit of seasoning, he ends up as a D-lineman that you can he ends up as a D-lineman that you could trust in the future. I would trade CJ for Joey Burrow and 2 first-rounders. I think everybody would. But the Bengals aren't doing that. CJ for Myles Garrett and 2 first-rounders. Come on now, chap. And now you guys are just being mean. CJ for a kicker, punter, and a long snapper. Well, they got a kicker and a long snapper already. They might draft this punter out here at the Senior Bowl. Georgia Tech offense was fairly explosive this year as well. Yeah, Hunter Hayes, the quarterback. Am I confusing him with the singer? Not Hunter Hayes. Gosh, what's his freaking name? Former A&M Georgia Tech quarterback, went to Haynes King, not Hunter Hayes. Haynes King. Yeah, Haynes King had some nice moments. Not Hunter Hayes. Damn it. Haynes King had some real nice moments for the Yellow Jackets. And yeah, they ran the ball pretty well. And the big fella, Big Red, Keelan Rutledge. Yeah, I like him. What can I say? All right, Cody, who we drafted? Hopefully some of these monsters out here. Hopefully some of these monsters on the defensive line. I'm choosing to believe in Nick Caserio. He has smashed the past few drafts. Last year was a really good draft. The year before was a good draft. I know Blake Fisher didn't work out, but Kamari Lassiter's already one of the better cornerbacks in all of football. Kalen Balog's one of the better safeties in all of football. But the last year's draft, it has a lot of really important players for 2026 after some good 2025 performances. More Polish names, please. Jennings Dunker, large human, really doesn't eat that much. Shout out to Trent Brown, who told us that I really don't eat that much, despite being the largest, I think, Texan ever. Always like the helmets with other participants' team decals, #Senior Bowl. Yeah, they wear the red and white jerseys, and the quarterbacks have the blue jerseys, but everybody wears their own helmet. And that's why, like, Cozio wore the H-Town blue or Love You blue or Oilers blue helmet. It was Houston in script with the blue outline. So I thought that was cool from him. And then some guys wear their helmet has a number on them. And it's not their Senior Bowl number. So that kind of confuses me every now and then, but if we don't draft Jennings Dunker, fire Caserio immediately. He looks like a muscular ginger Boston Connor. Yeah, Dunker's going to be that guy looks weird. Let's draft him favorite for a lot of people. I'm sure. I like the tight end out of Baylor. Don't know if it's realistic for us, though. His name is Michael Trigg, and he is realistic. He should be a late day 2, early day 3 selection. Again, originally supposed to be at the Senior Bowl and then ultimately didn't make it. Not sure exactly why. Guys pull out for different reasons, but Trigg is a player that the draft process could be pretty kind to. Oscar Delp is the Georgia tight end. He's been a little disappointing, was a top-rated prospect, and it's never kind of turned the corner for Delp. But I'd be intrigued by Delp late in the draft. Wouldn't make it a priority. Mike says, I can't believe I'm going to miss Charlie Sheen. My old lady hates me. She has to, not wanting to move to Texas. She wants me miserable and away from my people. I'm sorry, Mike. I'm sorry. If I come across any Charlie Sheen signed Tiger Blood, I'll send it your way. All right, here's my final 7 Senior Bowl observations. This is 7 Senior Bowl observations. Number 7, it's the first draft crush of the season. I already have this one. It's one that if you know me and you know how I talk about the offense and what I want out of the offense, and if you listen to Landry Locker talk about what he wants out of the offense, it's over at the running back position. And it is a player that I am very excited to see in the rest of the draft process, and I'm excited to go back and watch a little bit more from his college career. He's one of the most productive football players that's in this draft. He's just outside the top 100 rushing yards in a college football career. I think he finished 113th all time in rushing yards for a running back. And he showcased a skill that not many people believed he had at the Senior Bowl. And that is Penn State running back Katron Allen. Katron Allen was a monster at the Senior Bowl. He's in the first group, the national group, and you look at the numbers here, super productive. He's played 4 years at Penn State, 6.2 yards per carry on a Penn State team that couldn't throw the football in 2025. 15 touchdowns, 40 almost for his career, had a handful of receiving touchdowns. And this was in a timeshare with his teammate, Nicholas Singleton, who's also here at the Senior Bowl. But let me tell you what Katron Allen did to this guy. He did to this poor fella today. I got to write down. I got to read you what I wrote in my notes because, and I just, I felt so bad for the linebacker. I got to go find the guy's name because I don't want to embarrass him or, make light of him, but Katron Allen in the one-on-ones. And again, these one-on-ones is running backs and linebackers. It's set up for the offense to succeed. Scooby Williams. Oh, poor Scooby Williams. Scooby Williams had a really nice day outside of this moment. But Katron Allen, he just absolutely lost Scooby Williams. And Williams was nowhere to be found, went flying. And I just wrote in my notes, 11 killed a guy. Oh, my God. That's all I wrote. And Katron Allen was catching the football with ease, made it look super easy. And that is not something he did at Penn State. In his 4 years at Penn State, he had less than 500 receiving yards. He had less than 70 receiving yards in 2025. But he looked every bit a complete running back in the Senior Bowl practice. And in the 11-on-11s, I thought he broke a linebacker's arm that went to kind of like, arm tackle him because they don't take him to the ground. I thought he broke a guy's arm because he just kept running and ran through. And if it was a live rep on another rep, he would have taken it to the house. Katron Allen, the Penn State running back, is my first draft crush of the season. And I already liked him a lot because he was a big, nasty, fast guy, 5'11", 217. He looks bigger than that, and he plays bigger than that, and he doesn't play slow at that size. Katron Allen, remember that name. He's a favorite of mine. He was awesome in the first day of the Senior Bowl. I can't wait to watch him more in the next couple of days. Hope he plays in the game on Saturday. That's when you can really see what he brings to the table. If he runs fast at the combine, that's obviously going to be great for him. But go watch him at Penn State. He was awesome for the Nittany Lions at Penn State. That's what matters more than any of this stuff in the offseason. Go watch him at Penn State. Super productive. All 4 years he was with Penn State. And I'm very, very excited to maybe add him to the Texans running back room because him with Woody Marks, you add another veteran or you add a veteran to that room. That's an awesome running back room with a lot of potential. Katron Allen could be a freaking steal if he continues to be productive and then showcases the receiving element of his game. Woo! I'm in. Katron Allen, my first draft crush of the season. Already, 1 day in. Got me a draft crush. Katron Allen, running back, Penn State. So. Italo Macedocosta. Italo Macedocosta. It's 3 a.m. in Italy, and C.J. Stroud not long ago just fumbled the ball again. This is not healthy. Come on now. Come on. Did see a couple guys put it on the ground at the Senior Bowl, and I was like, yes, note that. Don't turn it over. Top of the third, I'm cool with Allen. Yeah, I would consider the second round pick on him. He's there for me already, and he ain't even run yet. He's going to run, but just very good at Penn State, super productive, and would be the hammer to Woody Marks being a receiving back, and you wouldn't have to run Woody Marks between the tackles anymore. Just run this guy. It's a monster. How about Iowa at O-line this year after we went Iowa State at receiver last year? It's worse ways to spend draft picks. Cody, if you support taking any running backs for their first 3 picks, I think less of you. Sir, Katron Allen, get on board. Get on board with the Katron Allen train. Choo-choo! It's about to leave the station. Don't miss out on the Katron Allen train. Grizzly knows Katron Allen. Let's go. That's a bull running the ball. He was nasty, man. Went out there in the agility, just lost those linebackers. Man, I want him and Rodriguez squared up in a little one-on-one running back linebacker pass catching tomorrow. That's what I want. I want Katron Allen and Jacob Rodriguez, two freaking monsters out there. I want to see if Rodriguez can put the clamps down on Allen. I want to see if Katron Allen's he got lucky on the first day of practice. I can't wait. Okay, a couple of things to look for that I'm looking for in the next couple of days here. I want to see these offensive linemen bounce back, specifically the tackles. They got roughed up a lot. There were a couple of tackles that had a couple reps, and then they just kind of get bowled over. So the tackles, definitely paying a little bit of attention to them. Want to see more from the tight ends. And I'm going to get a little bit more on the DBs and the wide receivers in this one, just have a couple more eyes on that. And interior offensive line, interior defensive line, definitely still going to be a big focus here. So if you have anything that you specifically want to see, or you mention it, or you see a name, or you read about it somewhere else, you want me to keep some, put some eyes on it, send me a tweet or send me an email, and I'll put it on the to-do list to make sure I get a little bit extra on there. And then I'll have a full write-up. I mean, tons of stuff here for Houston football. So you can subscribe to that. And I'll have plenty for you at Houston football, recapping this practice in a very, very thorough manner. So don't want to miss out on that. That will do it for the live stream tonight. We got the locker room coming your way at 10 o'clock tonight, or it's going to be 10:30 tonight. So don't miss out on that with Landry Locker. The SNL collaboration tomorrow at noon, ahead of day 2 of the Senior Bowl, and have a Senior Bowl media day in the morning. So I'm going to go try to talk to some of these guys, get some more info, find out if they've talked to the Texans. I think you meet with almost everybody. They adjusted the way meetings work, so you meet with almost everybody, but it's nice to know if they do or don't meet with the Houston Texans. So appreciate everybody jumping in here in the evening one. We'll do another one of these tomorrow, and recap day 2 of the practice. Any QB coaches you are interested in? I need to put a list together because I don't think the one that I mentioned a couple days ago they're going to get. I need to put a list together. Safety Cole Wisniewski from Texas Tech. Have you seen him, Cody? He apparently was a big standout at the East-West Shrine game. So a lot of people liked what he did at the Shrine game. So that's definitely something to pay attention to in the process as a late round, depth safety. Certainly. All right. So appreciate everybody for watching the stream tonight. We'll have another one tomorrow. Recap you on day 2 of practice. And of course, don't miss SNL with myself and Landry Locker at noon, and the locker room at 10:30 tonight. We end the live stream the same way each and every time. It's my hope for you. It's my charge for you as well. I want you to eat good. I want you to sleep good. I want you to be good. We'll talk Texans again soon. Thanks for watching, everybody. Hip-hoppity, dip-doppity-doo.